You're listening to Atlanta Baseball Talk, your weekly podcast for all things Atlanta Braves.
Welcome to show number 276. Today is Sunday, August 24th, 2014, and my name is Steve. I am joined by both Hamilton and Curtis, so let's get to it. All right, guys, in tonight's show, we'll talk about this week's Terry McGuirk interview in the AJC, Heyward in the leadoff spot, Miner's performance, and scoreboard watching the Nats. But first, guys, since the 0-8 road trip, the team has gone 10-7 with an impressive sweep of the A's, a kind of impressive series win against the Pirates, and a not so impressive series split to the Reds this weekend in Cincinnati. So the team has gotten itself firmly in the wild card race. They're 1.5 back of the second slot behind San Francisco, 8 games back of the Nats in the NL East. Hammy, is there real reason to believe that this team will make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think there's reason to believe they could. So they're up against San Francisco, St. Louis, and Pittsburgh. If they can play 10-7 over their next series of 17 games or whatever till the end of the season, I think that they have just as good a shot as those other guys to make it. And I think that their pitching can be dominant. Their pitching was fantastic this week. You know, a couple bad innings here and there, but they really pitched well. And the offense, when the offense picked them up, they won. And when the offense didn't, they lost. And if the offense is better more often than not, I think we could be a playoff team. I don't think we're going to be a daunting one. And I think that offensively, that's, you know, we'll get to why we shouldn't be. But I think the reason why we should be a playoff team and we should think it is that we have good pitching and we have, you know, just as good a shot as those other teams.
If we do make the playoffs,
yep.
Don't you know that we will actually win the wild card and St. Louis will be the second wild card team? And they will come to Atlanta for the one-game playoff, and something horrible will happen. That's really the scenario that I see in my head.
Yeah, I would take that over us not making it. I do, but I see that happening too. But I mean, the offense. You can rely on the pitching with this team, and the offense is so interesting because we have a lot of great offensive players. But if you go through Baseball Reference and you click on every team, collective team offensive stat, the Braves are below league average in every single category except for plate appearances, at bats, Ks, and grounded into double plays. And the last two stats, you don't want to be above league average in those. No. They are just solidly below average. So that's, but I think the other teams have their warts as well. And we've got a puncher's chance. But the offense is our liability.
For sure. Curtis, what do you think? Playoff team?
I saw that Baseball Prospectus gives us a 50% chance of making the playoffs, and I don't know that I'm that sold, but I would be right in that area. And maybe that's not the greatest endorsement. But, yeah, I can see the Braves being a playoff team just as much as I can see the Pirates or the Giants. I mean, both of those teams are not playing very well. The Pirates had a long losing streak before the Braves went in there, and thankfully we let them snap that on us. But, yeah, like Ham says, I mean, the starting pitching has been really good again. It's the offense. And once again, it's all tied to the home runs, unfortunately. They go 4-1 this week when they hit a home run. So they put up a lot of runs when they hit home runs, but when they don't, man, they get shut down, and man, their offense looks terrible. So I think they can over the course of what is a relatively weak schedule. I know they get the Nationals a couple of times, but we hope that our luck against the Nationals continues, but it's lots of Phillies, there's some Pirates back in here, there's Mets, lots of Mets, so it all depends on how we play against kind of some average teams over the rest of the month. But yeah, sure. I mean, I see that they could make the playoffs, but again, I don't see them. I wouldn't see them getting out of the one game wild card game.
I mean, God, I fully was believing it this week, that Oakland sweep and then the start of the Pittsburgh series. I was out of town this past week, and so at least for the starts of most of the games, I was just looking at the MLB app, and it was just ridiculous. I would click on and it'd be like, oh, Braves are up 6-0. Oh, yeah, every night we're just dominating. Right. The offense is going crazy. We're just killing them.
And the pitching's fantastic.
The pitching's fantastic. The Miners no-hitter. I mean, it was like an amazing week until then. To me, the real Braves started to show up this second half of the Cincinnati series, and the offense disappears.
Well, even the game they won, it took a Justin Upton home run in the 12th inning. The second game they won, obviously they won the first game going away, but that 3-1 game, that was another game where their offense was totally non-existent for that entire game.
Well, and the telling stat as you click through the team stats is that the only stat we're in the basement in completely is sacrifice flies. We're the worst in the league in sacrifice flies, and that's those games like Miners and those games where you're sitting back on that homer. If you can't create runs, that you're bad, right? And that's our biggest flaw. I mean, if obviously when Upton's hitting 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a homer every other game, and we're going to win a lot of games. But when he doesn't, we're very iffy.
Well, and that's the thing. That's why I don't believe that we're really going to win 90 games and get to the wild card. I mean, Justin can't keep this up. The bullpen has stabilized a great deal. I mean, David Carpenter and Varvaro. Carpenter's 1 hit, 1 run in his last 7 appearances. Varvaro's 1 run, 1 walk his last 5 appearances. I don't believe those guys. I don't think that's going to keep up. We don't know when Simmons will come back and he'll be any good. I just don't see it. I just think that the Oakland and the Pittsburgh series were a mirage, and what we saw this second half in Cincinnati was more what this team really is.
I don't know. I still have a little bit of positivity, though. I still feel like there's still a little luster on that run for me, and I'm still excited by this 10-7 stretch. I really think if we can keep this pace, and I think we can, that we have a shot to get to the postseason. In the postseason, anything can happen. Whatever. We're not going anywhere in the postseason, but I think we have a shot. I really do.
All right, guys. So Jeff Schultz interviewed Braves chairman and CEO Terry McGuirk about a number of topics in the AJC this week. One thing that stuck out to me was his question about evaluating the job that people are doing. He was really focusing on the front office more so than the players. At least that's how I read it. But part of McGuirk's answer was, quote, "I don't want to make any predictions. I don't want to say even how or when meetings will occur. But if we don't have success, know that we won't be satisfied and we'll be looking at things very hard." So, Kurt, do you buy it? Is there that much accountability?
I buy it in the sense of a stat sheet, which is returns on investment. I don't know that I buy it so much as returns on the field. I don't think that Frank Wren and Freddie Gonzalez are feeling a ton of pressure. They might be feeling some pressure, but I think they might be feeling more pressure that fewer fans showed up this year, and they're losing revenue as a source as a result of that, more so than the Braves have been kind of pedestrian this year. And that's the biggest issue I continue to have with the ownership and with, frankly, Terry McGuirk. I really dislike him. He's made a lot of comments over the years that have offended me deeply, and blaming the fans for a lot of the issues associated with the payroll and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I've said it 1,000 times. I work in PR, and you give something to people and make it a reason for them to show up. I think this is a fun, young, compelling team, but they need pieces. They clearly need pieces to really throw them up into the next echelon of teams. And due to that, I don't buy it, and I think that they look so much of the Braves as a business type of investment, and as a fan, I don't like that. I mean, I understand that you don't want to just be throwing money after money and bad money away, but unfortunately, they have thrown bad money away, and it's impacted the team in such a negative way. Because they're so handcuffed that it's just tough for me to believe that they would make some rash move if the Braves, say, finish a game out of the playoffs or something like that, that they would fire Freddie and Frank Wren.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that he believed what he said, but I think that the hierarchy, or just the sort of the way that this corporation is set up, doesn't lend itself to the bloodthirst that I want satisfied, right? You don't have Arthur Blank calling everyone into a room where he can demand answers, and you really have to give them to him or heads will roll. I mean, McGuirk, I assume, calls people into the room and they have that big meeting, but it's not like sitting with the owner of the team. No one ever sits with the owner of the team.
Yeah.
And you know, and you couple that with there is a culture here, and look, there's a lot of good to it. I don't want to be the Mets where every 2 years you have a new manager and you have a new general manager and all that stuff. But there's that culture here of not firing people. And some of that needs to happen, in my opinion, and that's not going to happen either. Coupled with the fact that you don't have that kind of one-person accountability, not a lot is going to change in my mind. Hammy?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We have a hump to get over as a team, as an organization, to really be world champions consistently. And the way this is set up, we're not going to get there. I feel it's literally impossible. I do think everyone's accountable. I think they're accountable to different standards, different timelines than the ones that we as fans might want. And different from the ones that that owners, like true owners of a team, like a Ted Turner, would want and set. And so I think Freddie has a pass this year. I think that they give people more time. They're more patient. And I'm just disappointed. I mean, to both your points, I'm disappointed as a fan. I mean, I can't fault Terry McGuirk. You know, the way that people are successful in business, and that's what he is. He was hired when Time Warner sort of took over operations from Turner to run the Braves. They brought over McGuirk. And the reason they did is because they were losing $40 million a year on the Braves. And they said, fix this. And as an excellent businessman, he did instantly and has maintained that. Right? And that's what good business people do. They manage strategies and budgets and deadlines and complex organizations who have customers and reputation, blah, 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 right? I mean, they're good at that. But what they're not, and that's what you need Frank Wren to be. You need Frank Wren to be that type of person. But what they're not is they're not impulsive or prideful or arrogant, passionate, win at all costs, inspiring. They're none of those things. And because you don't succeed in business when you're that way, unless you're an owner of a business like a Steve Jobs or something like that. But if you want to we should not expect McGuirk, and there's no way he really could operate like an owner and be what we need to get to the next level.
But it makes me, so Hammy, I agree with all that too. It makes me question, for the accountability to really work, there needs to be some really, really, really good and smart baseball people. And I don't understand how people can have watched Freddie these last few years, and particularly this year, with BJ in the leadoff spot, with some of his usage of the bullpen, with stuff like this weekend. Saturday's game, I'm going to get it wrong, was the 7th or the 8th inning. You had BJ and the pitcher coming up, and you pinch hit, dome it instead of Heyward. It was the night that he sat Heyward. There was there was terrible sort of bench management from Freddie, like all that stuff. If there's really accountability, and assuming the Braves continue this year and don't make the playoffs, like I don't think they're going to, how is Freddie the manager next year if there are really good baseball people around?
Because people succeed in business by letting people play their jobs, do their jobs, and then looking at the outcomes, right? And Freddie we're one of the most winningest teams over the past stretch here in the National League, right? I mean, that's what you do. That's how you evaluate people. You can't evaluate them on every single sale or deal. You've got to look at it over the long haul. And so they're not looking at that. They're not looking at that. It's not their job. And I'm speaking for them, right? Not for me. They would feel they're meddling. They would feel that's not the role of a leader to do that. And so they just abide it. And then at the end of the day, look at the record. And they look at, wow, coming into this year, Freddie lost Medlin. He lost Beachy. He's got Upton, who's underperforming. We had Ugla Albatross over his neck. And in spite of all these things, we're right there in the hunt. And so,
sure, but again, it speaks to the hierarchy that's in place, and really
absolutely.
great leaders surround themselves with really great people.
It's system ownership. It's
Right.
low risk, play the odds, and run it like an organization, which is efficient and somewhat productive. It's not enough.
And it leaves us with the decision makers not in the details enough to see changes that need to be made.
And I would argue that Freddie has underperformed despite winning all those games.
Yeah,
I think he's had a team.
The team has won despite him.
Well, I'm not even saying that. And I have said that, but
I think he contributes to the winning.
I think that they should have done more over the last couple of years. They had the collapse. They had the infield fly against the Cardinals in Atlanta. They had the one-game game in Atlanta, and I know that he doesn't control all those things. And then they had the series last year where they blew it, and they could have had a better opportunity to play a better opponent in the first round of the playoffs, and they blew it down the stretch and ended up having to play the Dodgers, who was the worst team they could possibly play. And then this year, despite losing those pitchers, again, the starting pitching has done nothing to make this team a 500 baseball team or a 6 or 7 game team over 500, for all the people that are going to correct me because I'm not specifically accurate with that comment. But that it's not been the starting pitching. I know that Beachy and Medlin are big losses, Gavin Floyd, all those things, but it's been the offense that's underperformed for this team. So we can't lay it all on the fact that those two guys aren't there. This is a whole structural thing with this team, and this is 4 years. This is 4 years that we've had Freddie, and it's not getting any better with him, And I know that now we've gone off on a total tangent about Freddie and the future of this team, and people got super pissed off at Hamilton and I last week for daring to talk about next year when this season wasn't even over. But it's just this. We've all raged on the ownership situation for a while, and now you're getting kind of a lame duck feeling, I think, down at Turner Field, where they've kind of lost the Atlanta base because they know that they're moving to Cobb County, and the attendance is way down. So I think a shakeup would be something that would, if you're talking about a business move for the Braves, I think it would be something profoundly impactful for the fans to see them make a move like that, regardless of where the Braves end up this season.
I think for them it would come across as being portrayed as weak and unsure at a time when they need stability. They got the youngest team in the league by a couple of months on average, or under 27. And you have a
captainless ship with the second youngest team in the league.
Yeah, but
he already said that he's no leader. He's not going to change his approach to the team.
But on the other side, and I'm just to point the other side of this, you have people like Listella and Gosselin and guys who come in and who are in an environment and a culture where they can produce and contribute early, and you can't just discount that, right? Freddie is the one setting the tone. I think that obviously in game he's horrible. He's a horrible in game manager, but I think outside of the game that he has some positives. The team would not be successful if he was a completely inept manager.
Right, and let him be a motivational coach for the team.
He needs to be a bench coach.
Well, maybe he needs to,
or be a third base coach again,
or hire a better consigliere, right? I mean, but someone else to whisper in his ear and maybe help him.
No, because he's the decision maker, and he's the one that's making the bad decisions. You have to take him out of that position, otherwise you're going to get the same results.
Maybe he's getting bad counsel.
All right, guys, a couple of quick announcements. All of our new shows will be available on our new YouTube channel, which you can find by searching Atlanta Baseball Talk out on YouTube. So go out and do that and subscribe to that channel. Also, we have a Facebook fan page. Go out there and like us. And you can find that at facebook.com/Atlanta Baseball Talk. All right, guys, let's play Fair or Foul, where I throw something out there. We agree with it foul. We disagree. I'm sorry, we agree with it fair and disagree with it foul.
Steve's back.
Hey.
Welcome back, Steve. Hey.
All right, so Hammy.
Yep.
Fair or foul, you put some blame on Freddie. Oh, my God, the Freddie bashing.
It is.
Fair or foul, you put some blame on Freddie for ever taking Heyward out of the leadoff spot.
Well, you have to some degree. I think, and I applaud his experiment with the thought that maybe you lose less and gain more by putting BJ up at the top and moving Heyward back. So I appreciate the experiment. It went on atrociously long, even before Bonifacio got here, and that's on Freddie. I mean, I was a proponent of it. I really thought maybe it would help BJ. We talked about it on the show. He just let it go way too long, and every game's going to matter down the stretch, and that's all on Freddie.
All right, Curtis?
Fair, all on Freddie. The Braves are 67 and 43 with Heyward in the leadoff position. That obviously is 24 games over 500. That is not a small sample size. That is 110 games. So clearly the best option that you've had, given the players that you have to work with, is Heyward in the leadoff spot. And again, I understand that he tried to experiment. I appreciate that. The numbers are what they are. It's pretty black and white. You're 24 games over 500 when Heyward leads off. And I would say that, once you moved Heyward back in is right when they started scoring all those runs again. So I know that the last couple of games have not really been an indicator of that, but he did sit during one of those games. But all the runs started to come back when Heyward was back in the top of the lineup. So fair.
When I went out to look at Heyward's stats during his first stint in the one spot, my recollection was he wasn't really that good, and Freddie had some real cause for this. But his numbers were actually better than I thought. For one thing, it was more games. He played the first 67 games of the season, so more than a third of the season he was in the one spot. And his slash line was 254, 334, 384. So not hitting for a lot of power, but he was getting on base pretty well, and his batting average was not an atrocity. So, again, Hammy, like you said, I get the thought. He's more of a prototypical, 4 or 5 drive runs in.
Yeah, but and maybe, he's thinking about the players, the pieces, not the team.
Sure. But to replace him with the worst hitter on the team in the one spot, it's still just so unfathomable. So fair. All right, Hammy. Coming off his near 8-inning no-hitter this past week in Cincinnati, you are ready to proclaim that Mike Minor is back.
I think Minor has always been here, not to get meta whatever. I think for now he's back, but this is Minor. I was watching the PGA Championship a couple of weeks ago. It was awesome, and Rory McIlroy was interviewed and said, why this run here over these last 3 tournaments, and he says, I always have the skills. It's my head that beats me, right? And I don't play within myself. I play a couple shots ahead. I replay shots behind me over and over again, and I just need to take it stroke by stroke. And that's what Minor has done over these last 2+ starts, right? And that's when he's fantastic. He's outstanding talent. When he plays within himself, when he takes it one pitch at a time, and that's what he's done. And I think he's always been that pitcher. So the question is, can he continue to do that in the high pressure situations, or if one pitch gets away from him, can he just rebound? And that's the difference between good Minor, bad Minor. So I'd say fair. He's back because he's playing within himself right now.
Okay, but he's always been here. I mean, Hammy, Minor's been bad for almost a straight year, and before that was amazing. So right. You just think the good flower that needed to bloom in the water and the sunlight was
no.
Just
I think
waiting.
He had a bad mental year.
Yeah.
Did he also break up with some Ukrainian tennis player or something like that?
I think that was Dirk Nowitzki. No, I don't know that for sure. I just think that No, but he had a bad mental year. I mean, and it trickles down. It gets into your mechanics. It gets into everything else. But I think when he can stay within himself and stay composed, he has the tools, the physical tools to be dominant, to be a great pitcher. It's all mental with him. And I think when he's good, his head is together. And I think he had a bad stretch. And I just think right now, I don't think he's back necessarily, but this is the guy he was over a year ago. It's the same guy.
All right, I think you're not answering the question, Hammy. Of course he's always had the tools. He's a major leaguer, and he was very good. And
yeah, but it's not about some breakup or anything. I think it's about...
My question is, do you think he's good again? Do you think he's good again?
I don't think he's dependable right now. I think he's good because he's had 2 good starts. I don't think that this should be a projection of that he's definitely back.
Okay.
So that would be foul.
Right. So, Kurt, let me be clear to you. Do you think that Mike Minor is dependable now?
I'm going with fair.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, me, the beacon of positivity this week. You two negative naysayers.
Unless you're talking about Terry McGuirk.
Well, yeah, don't bring up Terry McGuirk ever again on this show, or we'll do it when I'm at the beach or something. Sometimes that's all you need. You need a little head cleanse, and you need certainly to mechanic cleanse. And he said that they've picked up something, and he made an adjustment, and he's looked great. So I'm gonna support him and go positive and say yes, he's back. Fair.
And you said head cleanse, just for the record, so it's a mental thing.
That too. Sometimes being sat down, we've had that debate 1,000 times about sending guys down if it's good for them, if it's bad for them. And some guys, honestly, it works both ways. Some guys it's good for them, and some guys it's not good for them. And hoping that it was good for Minor that he missed that start and he got to kind of get recalibrated, and it's looked good so far.
Yeah, no doubt. He clearly took it as an opportunity to fix himself and did, and met with Santana and changed his grip and changed his attitude and all that stuff. Kudos to him. And look, his 2 earned runs against Oakland was very impressive. Sunday night, ESPN game, American League team. The no-hitter, of course, was ridiculous. And then he had that decent start against Los Angeles before the Oakland start. So it's really been 2.5 good starts. So no, I'm foul. I don't believe that Minor's back, but I do hope he is. And I hope that I never talk to Mike Minor. I never talk about Mike Minor with Hammy again, because it's just too frustrating. All right, so Hammy, you are still scoreboard watching the Nats, fair or foul?
Mike Minor and I, foul. I'm watching. I watched Pittsburgh and San Francisco first, then St. Louis a little bit, just as much, and then Washington.
Curtis?
Only when they are playing Pittsburgh and San Francisco, as they just did in the last couple of series they had. Otherwise, I'm foul. Now we're 8 games out. That ship has sailed.
Yeah, I'm still watching the Nats first. I mean, I know I'm saying that we're not going to win 80 games and we're not going to make the playoffs and stuff. But that said, I'm still watching the Nats. We have 6 games left with them. If we get to 4 or 5 back by that September 8th series in Washington, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm still holding out a little hope.
Yeah, but even then, it would require that we win 5 of those games.
Yeah. But, there is that wild card, no pun intended, of that we own the Nats.
Sure.
So, there is some possibility there. Okay, so last one, sort of thought exercise here. As Justin goes, the Braves go.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, there's the albatross that is the worst hitter in baseball and the center fielder with the most errors in baseball. Did you guys see that stat Sunday night when they were playing Oakland?
Just how bad? What was it?
No, seriously. They there was one at bat that they showed BJ and, said that he had the worst batting average in all qualifying major leaguers. And then the next inning, they showed him in center field and talked about that he had the most errors of any center fielder in the major leagues.
Because he let the ball bounce right by him.
Yeah, there was some play, exactly. Something awful happened that game. So if knowing that, if you had to keep BJ to keep Justin, or you could let go of Justin and let go of BJ, would you do it? I didn't form that as a fair or foul. Just discuss. Curtis?
So you have a guy who has carried us for 4 or 5 full months, I would offer, as
over his
career.
2 years.
Yeah, which is obviously substantial. And then you have a guy who has weighed us down for every second that he has worn a Braves uniform. Even, frankly, in that press conference when they announced that he was signing with the team, it seemed like there was something amiss about that. So, but given that and given the results that you've had from Justin, I would think that you would have to make that trade-off. Even going as far to say, if Justin would only re-sign, which I think you kind of said, if BJ is still around, I think you make that trade-off, because I think you can just suck it up and bench BJ and let Justin play. But I think Justin is so valuable to the future of the Braves. I mean, he's only 25 years old still, which is insane, that you almost put up with BJ and what he doesn't provide.
Hammy?
Yeah, it's interesting and Stevie, you really set this conversation up for me at the beginning, which is as goes Justin, so goes the Braves, right? And it's sort of disappointing that you wouldn't say as goes Freddie Freeman or as go Heyward, so goes Heyward.
You could say as goes Heyward, and Freddie too. Freddie's just had a down year. Heyward hasn't woken up offensively until like the last month.
Right, but offensively, I mean, I think. Yes, you're right. They're major contributors, but this year, right now, it's really Justin is the major cog that makes the offense go, and as goes the offense, so goes the Braves, right? And what do you give up? I mean, are you getting? I think it would be such an unknown, and it makes me scared that who is the leader that would step up and be the cog in the offense without Justin. And I agree. I think if you could just sit BJ and not play him, I would take him because I think Justin is right now is too valuable to the Braves. And I would love to give up BJ. I would love that it wasn't even a tool in Freddie's, arsenal. But really, is it Bonifacio? All right, that's a minor upgrade. I think really. I mean, anything's an upgrade. But there's not, for me, I don't know if there's enough of an upgrade over BJ right now that we have that if we lost Justin, we would be much worse off right now. So I don't know. I think you keep Justin and try to marginalize BJ.
Yeah, I would get rid of the two of them if it meant getting rid of BJ. I think that Justin plus BJ doesn't equal two above average players.
Yeah, I don't think it's an even return. I think that net it's a negative because of how bad BJ is and how bad he is impacting the payroll situation. But it's just the impact that Justin has when he's hot. It's so important for the Braves. So yeah.
So let me ask you guys this: So do you think if we make a move to cut BJ or whatever, and right, so Justin signed through next year, no extensions, no options, whatever. We make a deal with. Do you think we have to curry favor with BJ to keep Justin even negotiating with us?
We talked about this when they signed Justin. If one of them starts going bad, does that get weird in the clubhouse? And I absolutely think if we DFA BJ in the off season. Or don't put him on the playoff roster if we make the playoffs. I think that we've lost all shot at Justin. I do. I think that they're absolutely a package deal.
I agree.
But what if you somehow trade BJ in the offseason?
To who? The Washington Generals?
Yeah, I think that it's still the same result.
Because obviously they weren't playing together up until this moment in time. So there's no guarantee. I mean, I guess the chances are probably better that Justin will re-sign with you if BJ is still on the team. But if you trade BJ, that doesn't necessarily mean that team's going to have the upper hand in signing Justin Upton.
Yeah, he may be less vindictive.
Maybe so.
Maybe.
But I mean, whatever.
All right, guys, let's move on to our shot in the dark, our prediction for the coming week. But let's check back on last week. So, Kurt, you predicted Santana would go at least 6 innings in both of his starts and give up a total of 4 runs across those two. Now, he did give up a total of 4 runs, but he went 5 1/3 in that first start, 3 earned runs, and then 7 innings,
close.
1 earned. So
close.
So close. Hammy, you predicted that Heyward would score 6 runs this week, and he did exactly that.
Yeah.
And I predicted that Gaddis would hit 4 home runs this week. He hit only 2. So, Ham, you are the winner. Congratulations.
Nice. Thank you.
Which ties up the month of August. Kurt and Ham both have 1, and I am still scoreless.
All right, next week. I guess that's August. That's the end of August, isn't it?
No, we'll count this coming week.
All right, so the big one.
I could tie it up, or one of you guys could run away with it. All right, let's check in on our listener-submitted shots in the dark for the past week. So on Twitter, BravesFan9586 predicted the Braves starters wouldn't have a losing decision all week. It was looking good for a while until this weekend, when Santana and Harang both got losses. And then on Facebook, Alex Otwell predicted Phil Goslin would hit 2 homers and bat over 300 for the week. He batted .294 with no home runs. So we'll give it to Alex. I think he was closest of them all. All right, so we're asking for listener shots in the dark. We'll pick our favorite couple, track them during the week, and discuss it on the show next week. Submit them by Twitter or Facebook and use the hashtag ABTSITD. Submit them before first pitch on Tuesday. The first game this week is on Tuesday.
It's really amazing how razor thin it is for the Braves right now. Like 2-game losing streaks, or the Braves blowing that 2-0 lead in the 8th inning against the Pirates, or Harang not covering first base today. Those things, it's almost like playoff series. Every single game is so important. I don't know why I just brought that up, but I felt compelled.
All right, so guys, what are your shots in the dark for this coming week, Kurt?
Sticking with Minor, 8 innings, 2 runs.
All right, Hammy. I was going to make some minor joke. I couldn't quite come up with it. All right, Hammy, what do you got?
Why do we pay you the big bucks, Steve? So a little math here. I think a two-parter. I think the Braves score 12 runs or more in their upcoming series against the Mets, but then turn around and score 6 runs or less in their games against the Marlins.
All right, and I'm going to go that we get swept by the Mets up in New York. And let's talk about the week ahead. So 6 games this week, 3 in New York against the Mets and 3 back home against the Marlins. And let's take a look at the starting pitching matchups. And before I get into it, so as I was putting this together today, 4 of the 6 starters that we face have ERAs under 4 this week. And 5 of the 6 starters we face this week in their last starts against the Braves this year gave up only 1 run. So that's what we have coming at us this week. All right. In the Mets series, it's Wood versus Dylan G and his 3.84 ERA. Tehran Zach Wheeler and his 3.48 ERA.
And he's good lately. He's sort of,
figured some stuff out.
Yep.
And then Minor Nice and his 3.47 ERA. Again, so all 3 of those guys held us to 1 earned run their last time out. All right, back home against the Marlins, Santana versus Tom Koehler. He has a 3.82 ERA. He held us to 1 run. Harang versus Brad Hand and his 4.71 ERA. We have not faced him as a starter. And then Wood, again, Brad Cosart and his 4.14 ERA. And he, of course, held us to 1 run out last time as well.
So you're saying they all held us to 1 run?
Except for Brad Hand, who was a bullpen guy until he recently became a starter.
Right.
Mr. Hand. All right. Curtis, what's our record going to be this week?
3-3. 1-2, 2-1.
Yes, you don't feel good about the New York series either.
Just all this pitching. The Braves are just getting this deluge of quality pitching, and that doesn't help when their offense is so pathetic as it is.
All right, Hammy.
I'm more bullish on the Braves, and this I was bullish on this week. I think they go 4-2. I think they go 2-1, 2-1. I think that Wheeler gets us. He's been tough, but I think otherwise, I think we do well and we battle well. I'm worried about the guy we've never faced before and his 1-game shutout through 7. Mr. Hand.
All right, I am going to go 2-4. So we lose all 3 against the Mets, and then we'll win 2 in Atlanta against the Marlins.
Wow, the Cincinnati series really, really took the wind out of your guys' sails.
Not even that. It's just this weekend.
It's these last 2 games, but that's the thing. It just it shook me out of my optimistic stupor that this is the team. This is the team. And more than not, they're going to score 1 or 2 runs, and it's just not going to be enough.
But not the 10-7, not the team that actually, will win just a few more than they lose.
No, because the majority of the season would tell you that's not who they are.
Well, this is a stat that I seem to bring up every single week, but now they're 44-18 when they hit a home run. So 18 wins when you don't hit home runs over the course of a season up to this point. Not so good.
Yeah. All right, on that note, that is the show. Make sure, everyone, that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, as well as iTunes or Stitcher, so that you don't miss any of our weekly shows. And as always, check us out at atlantabaseballtalk.com for past shows, to check out our blogs, and to post in our comment section. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at ATL Baseball Talk and on Facebook. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and go Braves!
Thanks for listening to Atlanta Baseball Talk, your weekly podcast for all things Atlanta Braves. To find new shows, to post in our forum, or to send a comment, please visit us at atlantabaseballtalk.com.